the Oak Witch here on YouTube, and I hope you're having a lovely day. Today I thought it would be fun to go through my tarot decks and show you my collection and give my overall ratings of each deck. Tarot is something which I have used pretty much throughout my practice since I was around about 12 or 13. It's a great method of divination. It's probably one of the most common methods of divination, and yeah, I think it's just really insightful personally. I use it a lot for things like aiding in shadow work, but also that inner reflecting on that inner wisdom and future guiding. Yeah, I use it in multiple different ways, and over the years I have stacked up quite a few decks through gifts or, you know, spending my own money, and yeah, I thought I'd go through mine, because why not, eh? So I'm going to go through the decks through the order that I got them, so in chronological order. Starting with Barbara Moore's Book of Shadows Tarot. This deck, the artwork done by Gabriele Krasinski and Rivoli. I'm so sorry. But yes, Barbara Moore, I guess, made this deck, and it's alright. It's not bad. This deck was given to me by my mother, as I remember it being a Christmas present when I was 12 or 13, when I was really young, and it being my first deck, of course I was excited, but the imagery is very, I'd say, Wiccan, a very heavy influence of Wiccan. You know, it's got sort of the, for each suit, Maiden, Mother, Crone, you know, all the suits are just the elements instead of obviously wands, cups. They just use the names of earth, fire and water, which, you know, I guess it's nice for readings when you're searching for not just the imagery symbolism but like the deeper meaning of the cards. For each deck I'll give like a readings rating, so how much the deck calls me out, or how much I can get out of the cards. I'll give it out of 10. And for this deck, I think I would, it's hard to say since I really just didn't use them that much, but from what I did use them, I think I would probably say 6, and I think that's quite generous. Maybe it's just not my thing anymore, so I'm not gonna get a lot out of them now. It does come with a book as well, so which is nice. It goes through the cards, their meaning, a little bit of background information for certain things which appear, like for example the solstices. It gives a bit of a description. So the book is very informational. Like, it might actually be worth reading through this book because it has some information there, but and it has a lot of spreads as well, which is nice. So yeah, not terrible. The next deck in my collection is actually an oracle deck, but I thought I'd include it anyway. I got this at a pagan gathering in the UK, God, years ago now, like years ago. I don't even remember what gathering. Maybe Mercian Gathering, if any UK witches know what that is. But anyway, it's quite nice. It's a Power Animal Oracle cards by Stephen D. Farmer, and I don't know who that is, but it's a nice small deck. How many cards are in here? 44 cards are in this deck, and I mean, like it says in the tin, they are animals, and they'll have like sort of affirmations, maybe words, sentences, with each animal. You know, the artwork isn't terrible. It's quite nice, I'd say. Very simple. I feel like you have to intuitively get a lot out of these cards, which is nice. I like using my intuition when reading cards. But it also has, you know, guides as well, which is nice. But yeah, I think if you're really into animals and using that sort of animal symbolism, then yeah, I think this is a really nice sort of simple oracle deck for you. I have to say I don't really use oracle decks. I mean, I only have one oracle deck and there's this one, but it's never been something that's quite appealed to me. I think I like the more inner reflection that comes with tarot. It's a bit more deep for me. I don't really know what words to use to describe it. It just feels a lot more analytical in terms of like divination as opposed to oracle. But yes, I'd say when I did use them, the readings would be pretty, you know, they're pretty nice. So I would say it's like a 7 in terms of oracle cards. It's not bad, but maybe that's because I haven't really ever looked into oracle cards, so my bar is very low. So not bad. The next deck in my collection is actually one that my mum had initially, and I remember her doing readings with me and when I was younger, and I really liked the cards, so I ended up actually buying my own, and it is the Osho Zen Tarot. Now, these aren't really cards which I pick up anymore, but I got a lot out of them at the start of my practice. The illustrations were done by Madhava Padma. Obviously it comes with a book as well, so I don't know whether that person did the book as well. It's not quite clear, but the book is quite good. I'll discuss that in a minute, but these are the cards. In terms of suits, they have, I think, fire, water, I think that's clouds, the grey, and then they have rainbows. And then just the standard sort of major arcana layout, but some of the titles are different. So you still have the full, but you have different words for each of the major arcana, and the imagery I think is fantastic. Like, I really enjoyed. For me, the imagery felt like you could get a lot out of intuitively. The cards that I would pull, I would rarely actually check in the guidebook. I would be able to get a lot out of the imagery alone. It's very meaningful imagery, and actually for a beginner something like this I would think is very useful. It really helped me anyway. There's one thing I have to say about this deck. One of these cards I remember being a bit confused about, if I can find it. Yeah, so it's this one. So I did a psychology undergraduate degree, and I'm currently doing my postgrad in something else, but with this card I didn't quite understand how this relates to schizophrenia. I think there's a misconception that schizophrenia is related to sort of that split personality disorder. It's not. Schizophrenia is obviously psychosis, and I don't really know how that necessarily embodies schizophrenia. So that for me was a bit about this deck, but regardless, it's still a beautiful deck. I love the cards, I love the imagery, I love the darkness, and I love how bright it can also be. Obviously uses Zen, principalities of Zen, Buddhism, Eastern spirituality. If that's not your thing, then of course this deck will not do anything for you. Because that is what this deck, the artwork, resembles. But it is a wonderful deck. The readings, I don't necessarily use them that much anymore, but the readings I would do, definitely like a 9 out of 10 for me. Like, they would do amazing readings. I could get a lot out of the imagery. You know, I'm moving it to 10 out of 10. I'm moving it to 10 out of 10 because the readings were amazing. I remember really, when I was younger, really just being intuitively inspired by the paintings. So yeah. The booklet itself is really nice. It's quite detailed about each card, which is really nice. It tells a story yet also pointing to the cards. And there's a lot of information on sort of Buddhist philosophy and spirituality, which is nice, if that is your thing. So this next one is not actually my deck. These were my sister's and then she gave them to me because it's not really her thing anymore, but it's not really my thing either. At least in terms of this theme of the deck. This deck is a vampire tarot. I don't know what the deck is called, I don't know who did the deck, but it is, yeah, it's a vampire tarot. And the imagery is beautiful. Like, I like the artwork. It really is, like, lovely artwork. Very goth, very sort of, I mean, it's vampires, it's goth vampire, and that kind of just shows. The suits are grails, scepters, knives, and skulls, which is cool. If you have that sort of goth vampire niche, then this will definitely rock your world. Yeah, it's a nice deck. It doesn't do anything for me because I don't vibe with vampires, but if that's your thing, this would be really good. And I do think that the paintings are quite nice. Like, they tell a story. There is a lot in what's being sort of shown, if that makes sense. I think it's nice. I think the readings could potentially be good. I won't give a reading rating because I genuinely have never used them before. But they're in my possession and I thought I'd show them. So, picture me in high school and I go to my Waterstones and I see this deck, and for some weird reason I thought that this was the Rider-Waite deck, I think. But it is not. I do not like this deck. This is the Art of Tarot by Liz Dean. And I don't like it. I don't know, I don't like it. I think they're ugly. I don't think there's much really to be intuitively gained from the cards. The Major Arcana, okay, but even then it's not really my thing. Kind of seems a bit like medieval. I'm rubbish at history, so that might just be completely wrong. But they're simple and I don't know, it does literally nothing for me. I don't like them. And the Minor Arcana looks like this, you know? This does nothing for me. There is no imagery, but there's not even any like keywords either. Like, it's literally just, you really have to know your numerology, I'd say. Which is fine, if you obviously know that. I mean, I do like learning about numerology and using that as a guide to my tarot readings. I do it, but I like the sort of imagery to boost the reading, and this has nothing. Really, like, it does nothing for me. I don't think the artwork is bad. It's quite funky in its own way, but it does nothing for me. The ratings, I would probably say like a 2. The back is okay, it's quite nice, again with the reversals, if you're bothered about that. I think this was pretty cheap. Does it say on the back? Yeah, this was £13. You get what you pay for, maybe? The booklet, I'm not gonna lie, I have not ever read this booklet. It seems okay. It gives you the reverse meaning. It has information about each card as you would expect. This is one in my sort of giveaway pile, to be honest. I'd happily just give this away. If I had any witch friends in real life, all my witch friends are either just not in the country or online, I'll just give this away. And after buying that deck, I think probably shortly after, I bought the Rider-Waite Tarot. The deck that I actually wanted to begin with. Yes, I purchased this one. And not much to say about Rider-Waite. Oh, Rider-Waite. Is it Rider-Waite? Oh my gosh. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Anyway, not much to say about this deck. It is, you know, the traditional deck. Everyone has, everyone knows, does great readings because, you know, it's Rider-Waite. But yeah, I mean, if you know nothing about tarot, this deck is pretty much the deck that every other deck is based on. When did this come out? Pamela Coleman Smith did the artwork. In this version of the Rider-Waite, this release, it actually has information about the artist, which is really nice. Oh, someone will probably know when this got released, I don't know. And I can't be asked to Google it. But yes, obviously it is lovely. It's the one used in like movies and TV shows, and I feel like non-spiritual people kind of know what this deck is. But yes, in terms of reading ratings, it's like a 9 out of 10 because it's pretty standard for me. The imagery is really lovely. What I've always liked about this deck is that not only can you decipher numerology, you can also use the environments and the facial expressions for each card. Like, it really is lovely. You can intuitively gain a lot from the paintings. And that's always been the case. One thing I will say about this deck and Rider-Waite in general is that there are modernised versions out there now. For example, Modern Tarot, This Will Hurt, I think it's called. But anyway, there's a lot more. But people have now taken the original artwork and modernised it, which I would say is far better. At least with the Modern Tarot, the people that are presented are not just white people, essentially. Like, you'll see a lot more representation and diversity, and I think that's really important. And I think that's why a lot of people would probably end up buying ones like the Modern Tarot now, as opposed to this deck, just because, you know, you want to be able to look at the cards and see yourself. And that's the whole point. You know, tarot is like a mirror to the soul, or whatever the phrase is. And it's hard to sort of reflect on your, like, inner self when you don't see yourself represented in the cards. And that's one thing I'll say about this deck. It's pretty outdated, to put it simply. The imagery, at least. But it's also a classic, so if you're really keen to sort of get into the Rider-Waite imagery and symbolism, but you want something a bit more modernised, perhaps go with the Modern Tarot deck. After getting more into Rider-Waite, I ended up getting the Wildwood Tarot. This deck is really nice. It is very based on Celtic sort of pre-Christian mythology. It's very nature-based. There's a lot of animal imagery in this deck. The booklet's really good as well. Has a lot of information on, I guess, the seasons of the Celts, and it talks about descriptions of the cards and the meaning and reading points as usual. But it's a fairly, thick book. A lot of good information in there. In terms of the cards, they're really nice. The imagery is beautiful. It is, like I said, nature-based. The suits are bows, vessels, arrows, and what's the last one? Stones. So again, a nice sort of natural base to it. Yeah, I really like the card imagery. I really like nature and nature imagery, so it's definitely like nice to look at. One thing I will say about this deck is I never really properly bonded with the deck, and I don't really know why. I really like the cards because they have like keywords right next to the title, and you can kind of use it as a guide for what the image is showing, like the painting, and the imagery is lovely. Like, I feel like you can intuitively gain a lot from them. But for some reason, I don't know, my readings were never really that great with them. I don't know what it is. So because of that, I think I'd probably give this a 7, but they're really nice cards. The back is like that, simple, but I don't know why, to be honest, but I didn't really get a lot out of them. I don't think they're that expensive, so they're nice affordable cards. Usually they have them on the back of boxes like this. Nope. But it's a nice deck. If that sort of really natural Celtic druidry imagery appeals to you, then you're gonna get a lot out of this. So much now I don't quite I'm not quite interested in like Celtic mythology. I used to really be into it. Now I'm a lot more Norse based, so I know they kind of blend, but not a deck I really go to that much anymore. This next one is a bit different. It is called Divination Game, and this is actually a tarot deck that my mum made. It was for her master's degree. It was a project that she worked on, and she researched it really well, and it acts as a game as well as a divination tool. And what's different about these cards is that on every single card there is words. It uses typography and has the meaning of the cards here. It has the meaning of the suit here, so obviously fire, south, and that'll have the meaning of that suit in the corners, and obviously the number. So with this deck, I feel like there's heavy emphasis on perhaps knowing the structure of the cards and the meanings of the cards and using numerology. So it's less about, obviously, imagery. You know, there aren't any pictures in this deck. It is literally just written on the card, which is actually probably quite nice in terms of studying tarot. It would probably be really useful in just learning each card and what it means. So perhaps actually if that's something that really appeals to you, if you're not really a visual person anyway, and if you don't really look at the imagery of tarot, a deck like this would be perfect for you. It has colour magic, so you have red for fire, you have blue for water, yellow for air and green for earth. And then for the major arcana, it's purple. And they're laid out with the meanings of each card as such for every card. The game itself is pretty fun. It is a story-based game, so I think it's probably better in a large group of people, and you can use like a compass sort of spread. And if you want to pause and read the instructions or the rules of the game, feel free to. I'd go through them, but this video would just be so long if I did, so there's that, and it goes up to 12 there. So yes, Divination game. I'm pretty sure my mum still has copies to sell if this does interest you. I do recommend it. I'm a very visual person myself. When it comes to reading tarot, I rely quite heavily on imagery, and I use my intuition to sort of gain insights into what the painting is displaying and how that relates to the meaning of the cards. So for me, it's not necessarily a tarot deck I would constantly be going back to, only just because I am a visual sort of learner. But if you know that you're not and you're the opposite, why not? The next deck that I have is not a tarot deck, but it's a similar sort of style of divination. You know, they're still cards and they're still sort of split into suits. So this is Yggdrasil Norse divination cards. This is by, oh I'm not going to try to pronounce that. It's by them, and the imagery is beautiful. I mean, I'm a Norse pagan, so these cards really do a lot for me. And the way that they're meant to be used is in an Yggdrasil spread, which I find really interesting, and I think that's why it differs from tarot. I suspect you could probably use the cards as random spreads if you wanted to. So you can see the spread of the Yggdrasil here, and this is how the cards are meant to be laid out. And the suits in this deck are again the 9 worlds in Norse mythology. So you have obviously Asgard, you have Jotunheim, you have Alfheim, you have, I'm not going to go through them all, but you have the suits of each of the worlds, and obviously you have the gods or beings that fit into those worlds. And the artwork I really like. So Freya, Skadi, Dag. Interestingly, you have a lot of beings and creatures which actually you wouldn't immediately think of when you think about Norse mythology, which I really like. So it shows how sort of in-depth to the mythology these cards go. And yeah, I mean, they're beautiful. It's a really specific art style, but I love it. And the colour, I guess, is non-existent, but the drawings are so detailed that for me it doesn't quite bother me as much, and I've just dropped them all over the floor. But yeah, I think they're stunning, and I have done limited readings with these because I actually use the cards as representations of my deities for my deity altars. And I haven't wanted to do a reading with an incomplete deck, so I haven't been doing them as much with this deck, but the readings I have done have been really good. And in the way that the spread works with the Yggdrasil, certain gods or beings being placed in certain aspects of the tree is itself its own meaning, which I think is so intricate, but I'd also say it can be quite complicated. So you have to sort of really study how to use them. But I think it's a really great deck. I think if you're Norse pagan, if you're really into Norse mythology, and you don't mind it being not necessarily its traditional tarot structure, yeah, I recommend getting this deck. Also, in the booklet there's a lot of information about Norse mythology, and with each card, and obviously they have some god cards, there's information about mythology, how the god appears in certain tales, and how the presence of the god or card in a specific area means something. It details all of it in this book. It's a really great set. I should really use them more often. I don't remember how much this was. It says $32 here. I think I probably paid less because obviously I'm pounds in UK. But really great deck. I give that reading rating of those cards I give them a 9 out of 10. Now this next deck is really popular. It is like the Tumblr Instagram deck. And I mean that in a good way. It is the Wild Unknown Tarot. And these cards are beautiful. They are stunning, and they're really popular, so most likely you probably know this deck already if you're watching this. But what is amazing about this deck, Krans designed and wrote the deck and the book. She is obviously a talented artist. I mean, the art of these cards is amazing. There's a lot of plant, nature, animal imagery, and it's not just all light and fluffy, like it's dark. Like certain cards are, like they're beautiful and they're dark, and they're really great mirrors for self-reflection. I feel like I have gotten a lot out of certain cards, and certain readings, sorry. They're simple, yet they also say so much, and I love the use of colour. You know, it's monochrome, yet there's splashes of colour. I think it's just really cleverly done, the way that Krans has laid out this deck. They're beautiful cards, they really are. The reading rating for these cards is a definite, like, 9 out of 10. If not 10 out of 10 for me. They're amazing cards. The backs are really nice as well. Yeah, I don't honestly have much else to say other than it's a really amazing deck. The guidebook I thought was quite good as well, in terms of guiding the beginner. If you know nothing about tarot, and this is your first tarot book, I think the way she sort of describes what tarot is, how to like understand the deck and the suits and the court cards and reading the cards, she goes through it really well. I would say that actually, in terms of this as a standalone book for tarot, I think it's really good. So yeah, I really recommend this deck. I don't remember how much it is. I don't think it's too expensive. It's not one of the more expensive decks in my collection anyway. So this next deck in my collection I got this year. So the last two I'm going to be talking about are ones that are really recent in my purchases. But this one is the Brady Tarot. And it's by Brady. It is a beautiful deck. The artwork is hand-coloured lino prints. And I think the book that it came with was written by Rachel Pollack, who is quite an influential tarot writer. But yeah, they're beautiful cards. I mean, to begin with, look at the gold edging. That is gorgeous. And the back is really lovely too. The artwork itself is representing flora and fauna, so plants and wildlife, of North America. So it's heavy nature focus, and if that's not your thing, then obviously you're not going to like these cards, but it's my thing completely, and I love it. They're really amazing. And what I find most amazing about these cards is the imagery, the animal imagery isn't just sort of animal portraits. They are actually displaying real animal behaviour, and not just happy looking representations of animals out in nature. Like, they are brutal and they are realistic, which I love. You really get a good idea of real animal symbolism, honestly, and animal behaviour, and that's why I love this deck. It really is just beautiful. It's the Hermit, the Owl. I feel like intuitively you can get a lot out of these cards. They just tell such a story. And what's really good about the book as well is that Rachel Pollack not only gives a good sort of information about the meaning of the card, but she also talks about, for example, its relation to the Rider-Waite deck, and she also discusses in the cards the animals being displayed, the animals shown in the card, and what species they are, and how they're sort of presented, what behaviours they're displaying, how that links to the meaning of the card. And I love that so much. It really, it's so insightful, and you get to learn so much at the same time. Reading rating for me of this deck is a good 10 out of 10. Like, it is solid 10 out of 10 for me. It took me a while to bond with the cards. I think because the imagery is so busy and there's that like multi-layered meaning of not only the standard numerology symbolism but also the animal symbolism. It's something that I guess, and where they're so busy as well, like I feel like you need to really look at the card and spot everything in the scenery to give you that sort of intuitive answers you're looking for. Beautiful. 10 out of 10. But it did take me a while to get into it. The last deck which I will be talking about is the Prisma Visions Tarot. This is by James R. Eads. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I think the book was written by someone else. Written by Catherine Toombs, yeah. But the cards obviously drawn and painted by James. And they are stunning. They are beautiful cards. I mean, what is special about this deck is with each suit, James R. Eads clearly made a point to create a painting for each suit. And I'll try explain or show you a little bit about what I mean. So this is the 9 and 10 of Swords, and when you join them up, you see it joins up, it becomes a painting. And what he's done for each of the suits, so they're the standard swords, wands, chalices and pentacles, he's done a whole, they all join up for one big painting, so there's 4 paintings. And it's beautiful, and the artwork is just lovely. They're busy, they're dark but colourful, and you can really just get a lot out of them intuitively. This is one of the decks where I haven't really needed to go into the booklet to look at what it means. It's quite good for that intuition. I love this deck. I'll try and find an image of the cards sort of laid out here, but it really is stunning. My favourite thing is showing people this deck and then laying out all the suits and then seeing people just be like, wow. But yes, in terms of reading ratings, a definite 10 out of 10. The back as well is something which I really like, the eye. This deck, as well as the Brady Tarot, are my most expensive decks in my collection. They were a good £50 odd. Like, It's expensive, but the quality of the cards are amazing. So there's that. So that is my entire collection, a good 12 decks of cards that I've gone through. My top 4 favourites, if I had to pick, just to summarise, would be Brady Tarot, Prisma Visions Tarot, my Rider Waite, and my Wild Unknown, with the Yggdrasil cards being a solid 5. They're the decks which, without fail, I can get a good reading out of. So yes, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's not too long of a video. I've had to film all day because of my camera difficulties, so I think the lighting's definitely darkened a little bit, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me. It means so much to me. Just past 50 subscribers as well, which blows my mind. So yes, thank you very much. If you have any tarot decks, what's your favourite? I would love to know. I'd love to see what your favourites look like and whether or not they're the same as mine. Thank you again, and hope you have a lovely day. Bye!